Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed my first article in the Fundamentals of Macronutrients series. I wanted to make this video to go over some of the key points and review, or kind of give you an idea of some of the structures I was trying to describe in words. So the key points from this presentation and from my article in general is that the macronutrients, which are protein, carbohydrate, and fat, are the energy-containing components of the diet. That's where we get our calories from. They're consumed in large amounts, so we take in gram quantities of these daily as opposed to micronutrients where we only may take in milligram, microgram quantities daily. Each of these macronutrients, protein, carb, fat, can be further classified based on their chemical structure, and they serve a number of critical functions in addition to providing energy. So the macronutrients are carbohydrate, which have 4 calories per gram. Foods high in carbohydrate are kind of shown in the picture on the right. They're going to be things like potatoes, grains, fruit, vegetables. Fat has 9 calories per gram. It's going to be found in foods like nuts, seeds, olives, egg yolks, fatty fish like salmon. And then protein has 4 calories per gram. It's going to be found in things like meat, poultry, fish, dairy, eggs, beans, nuts, and so these are the macronutrients. When we further classify them, so we'll go through each one of these here kind of briefly, but carbohydrate classification. Carbohydrates can be classified as monosaccharides, so that would just be an individual glucose, galactose, or fructose molecule. They could be classified as disaccharides, so when you start sticking 2 of these monosaccharides together, they're disaccharides. So a glucose and a glucose makes a maltose. Glucose and galactose stuck together is a lactose, and a glucose and a fructose stuck together is sucrose, which is also known as common table sugar. You can also stick long lines of glucoses together in different conformations. So this is an example of one. This would be kind of the structure of starch, but glycogen, cellulose. So there are other polysaccharides out there also that are numbers of monosaccharides bonded together in different structures. Looking at fatty acid classification, they can be classified as saturated fatty acid, which has no double bonds. So you can see you have the C bonded to the OOH, and the rest of the zigzag line, each of those points is representing a carbon in the fatty acid tail. Looking at the monounsaturated fat as opposed to the saturated, you can see there's a double bond, one double bond in the fatty acid tail. And if you compare that to a polyunsaturated fatty acid, there are more than 1 double bonds in the fatty acid tail. The double bonds in the fatty acid tail can be further classified as cis or trans based on their chemical structure. So cis would be the example I showed on the last page for a monounsaturated fatty acid. That double bond would be a cis bond. So cis means that the carbons are on the same side and the hydrogens are on the same side. So the 2 red carbons there are on the same side, and the 2 blue hydrogens are on the same side of that double bond. Trans would look something like this, and so you notice the difference is that the carbons are on opposite sides, and as well as the hydrogens. And so trans fatty acids can be found naturally in things like dairy, but they're oftentimes made from processing and heating during processes that help foods last longer and not spoil, and they can potentially have some detrimental health effects. So proteins are made up of amino acids, which can be classified into essential or non-essential amino acids. I think it's also important to note that there are some conditionally essential amino acids that may become essential in certain situations. So to wrap up this brief presentation, macronutrients can be classified based upon their chemical structure. Carbohydrates can be classified as mono, di, or polysaccharides based on their composition and the number of monosaccharides that are bonded together. Fatty acids can be classified as saturated, monounsaturated, or polyunsaturated based on the number of double bonds. And those double bonds can be further classified as cis or trans. And then proteins are made up of amino acids, which can be classified as essential or non-essential based upon whether they can be made in the human body. So I hope this helps kind of clarify some of the structural things I was trying to explain in my article, and I hope you guys are looking forward to the next article in the series where we're going to dive more into the details of carbohydrate digestion, absorption, metabolism.